Welcome to Audio Oasis Storytelling Podcast, a place where you can stop by, listen, think, laugh, and most importantly, rest. Hi, this is Stephanie. Thanks for stopping by. Our next series is entitled Tales from New York City. Stay tuned. It was summer and I was working as an intern at the Botanic Garden in Brooklyn. That morning, in honor of the garden setting, I wanted to wear a sundress with the cutest matching stiletto sandals. I had a fresh fuchsia pink pedicure and life was good. Strange thing though. A voice from somewhere deep inside urged me to wear flip-flops instead that morning. And not just any flip-flops, but the sturdy leather ones. I thought it strange, so I ignored it, but the voice insisted. So I grudgingly put on the sturdy flip-flops. Still had the fuchsia pink pedicure, though. And off to work I went. It was a typical day at the internship, and before long, it was time to leave to go home. It was early afternoon, and the ride each way was no more than about 30 minutes max, so I had a sweet deal. Now, in typical New York fashion, the summer day was still young, and I wanted to enjoy what was left of it. So I gathered my things and got ready to dash out. Then there was that voice again. This time it urged me to go pee. I really wanted to get home, but there it was again, telling me to use the restroom. So again, I heeded the call. Okay, while riding home, I'm in the rear car, and the train is nearly empty except for me, a mom with a small baby, and maybe 3 other people. The air conditioning was blissfully cool, thank God, and it was actually quite pleasant. It wasn't really a big deal. Until it was. Uh-oh. Then the train stopped suddenly. We waited in silence, and we waited, and waited, and waited. Soon the blissful AC started to die down a bit, and then me and the rest of the passengers on that train heard this delightful conversation between the conductor and the engineer, as only it could happen in New York City. I shall reenact it for you now. Hey, partner. Yeah, man. Looks like we got a situation. What you mean, a situation? Yeah, so, I think, somebody said there's a blackout. New York City. For real? Yeah, man. The whole city. There's no power. That's messed up. And scene. As if on cue at the precise moment, that little baby let out a screeching wail. It was as if they knew what was about to go down and they wanted no part of it. The AC was no longer working at that point, but since the train car was virtually empty, it was still bearable. We waited in the increasingly hot train for about 45 minutes, almost an hour, and then our friendly announcer came back on the intercom. He wanted all the passengers to go to the last car, and we all followed instructions gladly. As I entered the last car, the first thing I noticed was a team of transit workers with orange reflective vests, flashlights, and lanterns, urging us all to come forward. Yeah, so the next thing I noticed was the door to the back of the train was completely open, and behind the transit workers directly in front of us was a sea of pitch blackness. Yet they kept telling us to come forward. Come forward for what, sir? Where are we going? I don't see anything but train tracks and darkness behind you. Yeah, that's when the transit worker said these words. That's where you're going. There is no power, and the train can't move. So you and your fellow passengers will walk the tracks to the next station while staying as close as possible to the tunnel wall. Excuse me? I immediately looked down at my bare feet in the leather flip-flops. As I exited the rear train onto the tracks, I looked directly in the eyes of each transit worker, as if to memorize them. Let me explain. It was bright and not too bad as we stepped down onto the track bed. But as we got further away from the transit workers, it got darker and darker. And finally, it was pitch black as we walked the track while staying close to the walls. Did I mention I was wearing flip flops while walking the tracks and a sundress while my back was sliding against the tunnel walls? Fun times. Fun times. Eventually, we did see the light in the distance of the next station. And as we got closer, it was almost like a religious experience as we were literally walking into the light. We climbed up onto the platform at the next station and emerged victorious like mole people into the sun above. Hoo hoo! That's when the real fun began. I was still in Brooklyn, but I lived in Harlem. I walked home that day, over the Brooklyn Bridge, to the Village, then Lower Manhattan, Midtown, Upper West Side, then finally Harlem. Took me 9 hours, all wearing my trusty, sturdy leather flip-flops and not having to pee until I got home. The inner voice in each of us is there to help and to guide. Whew, and I'm so glad I listened that day. Thank you for listening to Audio Oasis Storytelling. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Google Play Music, and Spotify. Safe travels and be well.